Hi, movie friends. Welcome to the channel where we love to talk about movies. Today, we're going to talk about Here, which I just saw at the theater. I think I was the only one in the auditorium because it was like an early afternoon showing. But yeah, we'll get into it. I'll start off with my just general recommendation or not on the film, and then we'll get into specifics a little later on. But I'll let you know when we get into that part. So overall, I thought this movie was good. I think it was. I feel like it will become kind of like a classic, or it could be. It's one of those movies that I think is. I could see it being like more of like a holiday film that people watch as more of like a tradition. But I didn't think. I think yeah. I think it was good enough for that, and like kind of has that sort of a feel as far as the movie goes. But yeah, I liked it. I liked it enough to give it a B. Like if you're going to the movie or going to the theaters and looking for something to watch, I'd say go see it. But it's not quite good enough where I'd actively recommend it. It definitely has some really good elements. I thought it was like the gimmick of the film where it's basically just a single camera position and looking at a space throughout time was very interesting. I think they had some really creative edits with that, like when they had when they moved the mirror in front of the camera, that allowed for I'm not like this isn't really a spoiler, but like they so I'll be careful though. I'm like I'm getting into specifics, but they do some creative things. That's what we'll say with the just kind of with that and how they edit the film together. I thought was really unique, and I think that's probably what makes the movie like that's what it has going for it the most. Where I'd say like it's a unique experience for that. But I thought the characters that it tells the stories of I thought were like some were really good and then some were a little less interesting. So it's kind of a mixed bag there because it's kind of like a collection of short stories because it's looking at this, single point in space, but then throughout time. And I think some of those were hit and miss, which is why I would like that. That's why I thought it was good overall. And while it maybe had potential to be great, it didn't quite pull it off. But yeah, I think that's my kind of non-spoiler take on the film. Now I'll open it up and kind of full thoughts as I talk more specifics. So if you don't want to know any more than that, feel free to come back here once you've seen the film. But yeah, getting into specifics, I think as far as like the different stories that they were telling, I kind of get how like some of them, most of the ones that weren't the main story, which is about I think his name is Ricky and like his family, they were, I think, more so just kinda like, "Oh, that's neat." Like, we see the house across the street getting kinda background from the American Revolution time and seeing Benjamin Franklin and that sort of a thing. Like, "Oh, that's kinda, nice," but it felt kinda like a waste of time because it didn't really have any that one especially, I felt like didn't have any emotional depth really, other than just being kind of neat. I think some of the others tried. I didn't really love the one where the about like the couple where the guy was like into flying planes and stuff like that. There again, it was kind of interesting, but I didn't really feel too invested in that one. I did like the Lazy Boy one. I thought they were just a fun couple, and it was kind of interesting to see this guy going through the process of inventing the Relaxy Boy, which then got rebranded as the Lazy Boy chair. But so I did like that storyline, and then the others, I think for the Native Americans, I think that one was fine. I think it felt kind of surface level, and there again, it's like, oh, that's kind of nice because they tie that in later to finding the necklace. So like it does tie together, but it didn't really give me enough reasons like why I should care about some of the other storylines. I did think it was interesting for like the current most storyline of the like that went into like COVID and stuff like that, but it there again it didn't like fully invest me. It felt like they were just kind of checking boxes, and it was I think in a concept worth exploring, but I think they just didn't quite do it in a way that worked. And I think what really worked for me was the main storyline. And anytime we got away from that, I was like, can we get back to that? And that I think is what was worth the attention of the movie. So I think Yeah, again, it was interesting having the, like, single camera position. I liked the yeah, some of the tricks that they had to kind of get you to see other places, or kinda see the reflection or things like that, to see into, like, the dining room behind where the camera was positioned. But I thought the main collection of characters were interesting. It wasn't like a, groundbreaking revelation that the movie presents. I think it's just a movie about people and family and those sort of relationships, which I think is, again, I don't think it's, something that hasn't been done before, but I think it's an interesting take and is, worth the watch. Yeah, of the main characters, I mean, I think it's a pretty sad film overall. It's definitely a kind of heavy and more grounded or realistic take, I think. It doesn't romanticize things. And yeah, it was like, I think especially for the character of Margaret. I mean, I think for all the character, well, for Margaret and Ricky, I think it was the story is kind of a tragedy. Like, ultimately, I mean, I think Ricky kind of comes back around, but and I mean, that's what, like, life is. It doesn't have to be black and white. It doesn't have to be comedy or tragedy. It's kind of both. But it was I think it was hard to watch Margaret kind of give up all of her dreams and the life that she wanted when, like, to start a family and kind of everything, and like how they did that, I think, like, handicapped that even more. Maybe that's not the right word there. So it just, I think it steered her further from what she had kind of hoped for her life when she was 18, to, then get pregnant and have a daughter and then be living with your husband's family. I think that would be a lot, and it certainly wasn't what she was looking for in life at the time. Now, obviously, she loves her daughter and that comes across, but you can see kind of how much she feels like she missed out on life, and is like, yet is happy for her daughter, that her daughter is, her daughter's having the life that she wanted. And I think that's hard. I think that's yeah, so it was kinda hard to watch that. It was also hard to watch Ricky, like, have to give up on his painting. Like, he's clearly very passionate about that and very talented, but he's like, "I've gotta make money," and you can kinda hear the bitterness coming through his voice when he's, telling Margaret later on why he gave up on painting, and yeah, there again, it was just kinda hard to see, but it was nice to then see him get back to that later on in life. Same with Margaret. I think it was nice to see that she was finally living and, going after experiences that she wanted, that she finally got to go to Paris. But it's again, kinda sad that it took her that long to get to that point. And, yeah, I think the Ricky's parents, let's see, what were their names? Al and, what was his mom's name? I forget. But I think they had a pretty good relationship. There again, I think she they kind of showcased, like, again, that she just didn't really have much of a life once she started a family outside of that. And I think, like, his dad, like, what they get on that conversation when, like, Ricky brings Margaret home and she's talking about that she wants to be a lawyer. And Ricky's dad is like, "Oh, you could just, like, why not just be a mom?" And, like, it takes him leaving the room for Ricky's mom to Rose, that was her name. It takes, like, Al leaving the room for Rose to kind of speak her mind, to be like, "Well, I did want to do things. I wanted to be was it a secretary?" And yeah, so, like, it was nice to kind of see her have that moment to be like, "Go after that if you want it," because um, she didn't quite say it that directly, but I think she was being supportive of Margaret in that moment, for her to want to be a lawyer. But yeah, so I think it was those were all, I think, interesting things to kind of see and just kind of sit with, and that's what the film does. It allows you to sit with these things and think about them. I think some of the things that made it a little harder, or that made me, like, sad watching it, was the I think eventually, like, Rose passing away and seeing Al kind of by himself and missing, like, at that point, all of his kids were growing up, and he like Rose had been, his partner through life, and he was really missing her, and that just reminded me of my aunt who passed away this last June, and my uncle, and how like tough I think that like that must be to lose a partner, and how alone you feel, especially after years and years together. But just that brought me into that space of remembering my aunt, which is it's special that the movie made me think of her, but it's also sad. And then similarly, I have a grandmother who has also since passed away, and she suffered from dementia. So the when Margaret kind of is, it's dementia or Alzheimer's, one of something along those lines that she gets later on in life, and we see that on camera. That was also kind of hard to watch for that reason. It made me think of my grandma. It made me miss my grandma, and there again, that's a special thing. But yeah, I did really appreciate. I think the final scene, that in particular, made me think of my grandma, where she's not remembering her daughter, not remembering kind of the space that they're in, and kind of how she's like the actress. I think did a really good job of capturing that. Like she definitely, like her rubbing her hands to kind of together, saying like, no, I don't remember that, and not really remembering any of the stories that Ricky's telling her. That yeah, that was hard to watch. That's because that's how it is. It's I think really sad when people lose their memories. That's like so much of who we are, and to lose that is it's really hard to see. But it was nice that she did finally remember their daughter, Vanessa, and did remember the place that they were in, and that while I think she sees the house as I have kind of mixed feelings on her being really happy and like ending on a note of like I love it here, because I think I think there was some there like she does have a lot of happy memories there, but it's mixed in with a lot of like she didn't want to live in that house for so long and as long as they did. But I think but I think it's nice that in that moment she was clearly focusing on the happy memories that were coming back to her. And yeah, that's really it's special to see when somebody is not really able to remember things, and to see something kind of break through that. And for like I've seen that firsthand, and that's one of the that's a special thing to see, I think. And so it was I appreciated seeing them kind of capture that in the story. But so those are that the movie's probably not going to hit the same for everybody. Obviously, like I'm bringing a lot of my own personal experience into those elements of it, and that's why that kind of stood out to me. But yeah, I think that's those are the main things that I liked about the film, and what yeah made it a worthwhile watch for me. So if you've had a chance to see the film, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Oh, I think last thing, the I really liked the score from Alan Silvestri. I think it wasn't like maybe not like one of the best scores ever, but it was I think a really beautiful score, and kind of really set the mood and the theme for the movie. So yeah, good job there. I'll definitely be listing that probably within the next week, soon enough. So, but yeah, with that though, definitely leave your thoughts. I'd love to hear them down below in the comments. Did the movie kind of hit home for you, or did it feel it did not really connect with you? I could see it kind of going either way, again, depending on what your personal experience is going into the film. But yeah, I'd love to hear it down below. But with that, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.